Hello FPL managers and welcome to a Game Week 26 preview and a Game Week 25 review. So we'll just do a quick review of Game Week 25, have a look at the team that'll be setting out for 26 and then go into the players and differentials and picks for Game Week 26. And just a reminder that Game Week 26 will kind of take about 2 weeks because half the teams will play on the weekend and then the other half of teams will play the weekend after. So it's quite a long game week. So maybe don't be using up too much of your transfers or much, many things like that at the moment. But it's up to you, of course. Always play the game your own way. But just as a warning, that it's a pretty long game week. It feels like a long double game week with Liverpool and West Ham playing, and now another really long game week going on now. So final points for me, 75. Now, of course, that is a fantastic game week for me. Kind of almost a double of average. It's been a while since I've kind of been having a great game week and other people and the average hasn't. It's been like a 1.9 million overall ranking to a 1.25 million. So it's a really, really big jump. But let's just be honest, it's just a couple of key decisions. And this is an example of where things go bad for me and I explain the decisions. Don't get angry at the result, only the decisions. And now it's the reverse side where I've got a great score and we still look back at the decisions and stand by them. So I try to be, just when I have a great game week like this game week, I'm not going to sit here and boast about it. I'll go through the reasons for the decisions just like I do when it's a bad game week. So 75 points. You can see that I started Lundstram. We weren't too sure if Sander Berge was going to come straight in, the £22 million young lad that Sheffield United signed, but he did, and it looks like Lundstram is done. And we'll talk about that when we come to the picks, to the players to bring in for the next few game weeks, but unfortunately it looks like it is the end for John Lundstram, and I will talk about that later on. But TAA 6 points again, another clean sheet for Liverpool, and that was a decision. You can see that I have Bruno Fernandes in this side, but we'll jump. We don't want to jump ahead yet. And Lascelles, I went with him, and you can see on the bench I've got two Everton players there. I went with him at home to Norwich, unsurprising 0-0 there, but a nice 6 points on the board. I know a lot of people have been saying about bringing him in for Lundstram and having him in your side anyway. And this is a player that I brought in on my wildcard because he was red flagged when I brought him in because I said, look, it's 4.2 million. The captain's going to walk back into this Newcastle side. He has, and he's got 6-1-6 in the last 3 games. So that is an easy decision if you already have Sheffield United players and you don't want to double or triple up because Sheffield United are going to blank in game week 28. Then I think Lascelles is a pretty decent shout. So going on to the midfield, you can see Bruno Fernandes came in for Mane. Talked about it on stream, and I thought, you know what, it's a game, let's play it. And we'll talk a bit more why he's actually my differential pick for this game week. It didn't work out this time, but I'm still happy with the decision because I was going to stick with Mane. We still don't know if he's going to be back for this game week or not. He's now a huge differential. Mane, if you've kept hold of him and he is back, I think it's just over 20% ownership, which is a fantastic differential for Mane. I didn't know the ownership would drop so much, but if you've held him and he's back, then that is great. But I am shifting more towards 2 Liverpool defenders and 1 Liverpool midfielder so I can spread the money out a little bit and improve my team and make it a little bit more balanced with more differentials. But Mane is a great shout. Kevin De Bruyne, blank. Another disappointing day for Manchester City, who have basically now given up, and it should be Liverpool's title. Huge lead. Captain Mo Salah. Captaincy was never a doubt for me this game week. It was always going to be Mo Salah. 32 points. I think it was before half time we were thinking, oh no, here we go. It's not going to work. And then boom, he pulls it out of the bag in that second half. Traore, clean sheet. But Snodgrass, the man, the myth, the legend, a person that I did talk about. You can see January 14th when he just came on off the bench against Sheffield United. And I thought, well, double game week come in. When he's played more than when he started or played more than 70 minutes of the game, he was getting good returns. I kept hold of him. I said this is going to be the last game week at home. He's on set pieces against a Brighton side who are not good away from home, and 18 points, absolutely fantastic. So those 2 key decisions of Salah captaincy and Snodgrass keeping hold of him for this final game before he sits on the bench because West Ham have a terrible run of fixtures. And it actually paid off. So again, this is the point I'm saying about making the decisions. It doesn't work out, I'll still explain the decision I made. And if it does work out, I'll still explain them. So I'm going to sit here and say, haha, I'm so good, because I'm not, because my rank is 1.2 million. Dominic Calvert-Lewin and Jamie Vardy, 2 blanks. Calvert-Lewin's got 1 more game. The plan was to ship on the Everton assets when the fixtures turn anyway. And he'll be out for Raul Jimenez. Probably it'll be after the Crystal Palace, after this game week. And Jamie Vardy, I mentioned this on Twitter and it got a couple of likes about. I'm not in a rush to move on Jamie Vardy. I still feel as though he's been a little bit unfortunate. People saying about the blanks. So if we bring up the blanks that we're talking about. So 2 points against Liverpool. Okay, fine. They got thumped that day, but it's Liverpool. We'll just write that one off. 2 games where he doesn't play, for me, they're not blanks, right? He picked up an injury. If you took him out then that's great. It's worked out. But I don't count them as blanks because he's not played. So a sub will come on for you. So he came back, 5 points. He got an assist. That's still a return. 0 points against Burnley. He missed a penalty. That goal goes in. He's got 5, and then he's got a minimum of 6 because he might have got bonus points after that, right? So then he's got 5 and 6. His back-to-back returns on his return to the side. 1 point against West Ham, but he got injured. He went off. And then 2 points against Chelsea. And just before he got brought off in that game against Chelsea, Harvey Barnes should have finished a chance. So we would have, instead of seeing, the 2 games that he didn't play, you would have got 5 points against Southampton, and then 6 points against Burnley, and then 1 point, and then 5 or 6 points against Chelsea. And then he would have got 3 returns out of 4 games. So I still feel as though jumping off Jamie Vardy to go to the likes of Aguero or Aubameyang, it's not for me. If that's for you, then that's fine. But also going into the run of fixtures, I understand that people are going to be thinking Wolves and City, not that ideal. He did score against Manchester City away from home. Why can't I do it at home? Especially if they're chasing that second place slot. And also Wolves, an interesting point I'll make later about Wolves, is actually just how terrible their form is right now. But not a lot of people are sort of thinking they are, because the FPL assets in terms of Traore and Jimenez are still actually getting decent returns. Form-wise as a side, they're actually in the relegation zone over the last 6 games. And then on the bench, I did bench Danny Ings, and it did sort of, in a way, pay off, but I could have played him and it would have worked out. I was never going to drop Snodgrass, so if I would have dropped Traore, De Bruyne, or Fernandes, which I wouldn't really done anyway, it would have worked out the same. But I did drop Sidibe and Holgate for Lascelles and Lundstram. Sidibe would have come on for Lundstram, and they got exactly the same. So as you can imagine, I had a lot of money. I think it was 4 million in the bank, and I already made my transfers for this game week. You can see this is what it currently is. Traore's on the bench. I'm just going to wait and see how that dislocated shoulder is. So next week, I already have the plans of Sidibe will probably go down to a Sheffield United defender, and Calvert-Lewin will go up to Raul Jimenez. But I could also still find a way back to swap Fernandes back to Mane, and Robertson will leave the side, so it'll just be a brief stint for him. But I just feel as though going back to Mane, I've had Salah and Mane for quite a bit of the season now, and it is great because when they both bang, it's fantastic. There's always a good chance. And you look at the fixtures; these are very, very good fixtures for Liverpool. However, you just look at how many clean sheets that Liverpool are picking up right now, and that's just an automatic 6 points, even before bonus. If Liverpool don't concede, the entire defense, so I'll be getting 6 points from Robertson, 6 points from Trent Alexander-Arnold. And without still knowing what Mane's situation is, I'm not in a rush to get him back. If it takes me, say, 4 or 5 game weeks to get him back, and he's coming back for around the City game for the end of the season, then that's fine, I think, by me. But if Liverpool's already got the title wrapped up by possibly Everton away, if City drop any more points, we could be seeing Mane and Salah getting dropped more, but I don't think the defence will get dropped as much. Of course, this is speculation, but this is the side I'm going in at the moment. Captaincy still on Mo Salah, but of course this could change. Got a few days for this to go. Still got money in the bank. And like I said, it'll be Sidibe will go out for a Sheffield United defender, and then Calvert-Lewin will go out for Jimenez before that Norwich game. So yeah, I'm pretty happy with the side. Having Vardy, Ings and Jimenez as my front 3 will be pretty good. Sidibe and Holgate, Crystal Palace, and again, I've mentioned about form before. Crystal Palace are right now bottom of the form table over the last 6 games. They are literally in last place. And away from home, they usually do pretty well. It's at home where Crystal Palace have a problem, but I can imagine a possible clean sheet. But Everton have been conceding goals. we'll have to wait and see there. So that's the wrap up of my team. So we're going to move on to the players and the differentials for game week 20. Okay, so moving on to the players and differentials for game week 26. So the first one I'm going to talk about is Sergio Aguero, 12 million and just 23.6% owned as well. The Man City hitman blanked this weekend against Spurs, but he had 6 goal attempts and 5 from inside the box. So he was actually the most underperforming player of game week 25 in terms of expected goals. And Man City just have this tendency to really smash the next team they play following a defeat. And that next team is a home game against West Ham United. And West Ham's defence and form right now are absolutely woeful. So they're 18th in terms of form over the last 6 games. And if you saw that game against Brighton, you just see exactly why Man City player owners are just licking their lips and perhaps even thinking of that triple captaincy chip if they've still got it, because the defence of West Ham is absolutely shocking. I think it was so Glenn Murray got the last equaliser, but it was the second goal that they conceded with, I think it was Ogbonna and Diop, where there was just this huge Matsuaku couldn't clear the ball, and then there was just miscommunication. None of them just went for it. You need that leader in defense that just says, right, it's a 50-50. I'm going to take control. I'm just going to boot the ball into row Z. And they just didn't. And just the defense was absolutely woeful. Of course, the big issue here is with Champions League returning soon. We're going to see Pep roulette, Pep rotation. But if you've got a Man City attacker, the likes of Aguero or Mahrez or Kevin De Bruyne, and they play, you'd be fancying their chances against West Ham, or even the player who loves to play West Ham United. He spanked him in game week 1 and in pre-season. Could this be the return of Raheem Sterling? We'll wait and see. Next up, we're going to talk about Danny Ings, 7 million, 28.6% ownership. So the last 3 games have been blanks for Danny Ings. However, one was him starting on the bench and one was him away to Liverpool. So arguably 2 out of those 3 are understandable. And actually against Liverpool, he should have got a penalty. He went to VAR from Fabinho, and it did actually look like Fabinho clipped him. So that would have been an assist had the penalty gone in. Again, we're talking about ifs and buts, but just explaining that don't just look at his points over the last 3. There's reasons actually why he's blanked over the last 3. And prior to those 3 matches, Ings was one of the most informed strikers in top European football since that dreaded 9-0 thumping by Leicester. The Saints have a favourable run of fixtures, starting with Burnley and Villa at home, and then West Ham away, Newcastle at home, and Norwich away. And if Southampton scores, Danny Ings is involved more often than not, and those games definitely look like they have goals in them. And next up in this section of sort of non-differentials, but when we're looking at the ownership, so it's Aubameyang, 10.8 million, 16.5% for Aubameyang, 28.6% for Ings, and 23.6% for Aguero. They're not hugely owned, so they're not quite differentials, but again, all of these players not particularly highly owned, and all got quite a lot of potential. But many people actually brought in Aubameyang for Jamie Vardy this game week, and they were left disappointed, but still a little bit hopeful. He was getting in right positions. I mean, he wasted one really easy chance where everyone thought he was offside. He wasn't. And they face a Newcastle side who, on paper, look like they have a great defence. Yet I believe they are actually well towards the bottom in terms of chances and shots conceded, and it's actually because of the keeper Dubravka. That's the reason why Newcastle's defense and clean sheets look so good. So it was a gentleman that I originally found this on, and I'd like to sort of give credit to people that deserve it. So sorry if I say this wrong. Abubakar Siddiq, he's definitely one to follow on Twitter. He does really, really good threads, and he pointed out the myth of Newcastle's clean sheet abilities. And that's right. That's basically because the goalkeeper is incredible. He's doing really well. So the likes of Lascelles getting 6 points for a clean sheet. It looks like Newcastle's defence are amazing, but actually they do concede a lot of chances, which is a good thing if you are an Aubameyang owner, because chances are he could finish one of those chances. But also following this game, they face another home game against Everton, who haven't looked good defensively of late. And they've conceded 4 goals in 2 games. So Aubameyang, if you've got him, if you did bring him on for Vardy and you're frustrated after that Burnley fixture, hold tight. Newcastle and Everton at home. I do see him getting at least something in one of the games. Going on to the, and it's amazing that this is still in differential territory, and it's the Sheffield United defence. Now, of course, we've learnt that in terms of blank and double game weeks, that now in game week 28, Sheffield United will face a blank, which isn't the worst. I would then say be careful of getting, say, 2 Sheffield United defenders, because that means you'll definitely have to play your other 3. Chances are, if that's Trent, Robbo, and Lascelles, like it would be if I was in this situation, that's actually not the worst. But just as a forewarning, don't go and get Henderson and 2 Sheffield United defenders, or just 3 Sheffield United defenders, because if you've got 3, then you'll definitely be having 10 players starting. Just be careful about that. But in terms of Lundstram, sadly, it's time to say goodbye. And I advise you, no sentiment. Don't let it get in the way. His price will just fall. So I got it for 4.1 million, and I can get 4.6 for him. And if he drops down, I'm just not going to be able to replace him with another Sheffield United defender, because they're full of cheap budget players. So Lundstram for 4.6. In that price range, Egan is 4.5. Chances are he's going to rise, guys. 4.5 for Egan and 4.6 for O'Connell. So Egan is 1.5% owned. O'Connell is 3.1% owned. And if you can stretch out the funds, Baldock is 5.1 and Stevens is 5.1. But Baldock is 11.5% owned and Stevens is 2.7% owned. So all of them are differentials. Choose any of those 4 players from the Sheffield United backline, and you're just going to be looking for clean sheet points there, because the fixtures are looking pretty nice for Sheffield United in terms of clean sheets. They've had a great record so far, look really solid all season. And coming up for the Blades, you've got Bournemouth, Brighton, a blank, Norwich, and Newcastle. So they are, sort of 5 game weeks there that you would bank on at least sort of 3 clean sheets. 2, but that's fine. It's your budget player. So why get rid of Lundstram and not bench him? For a budget player, you need them to play. They are your people that you rotate in and out. They're the ones that will come off the bench. So those cheap players, they need to be 90-minute players. The likes of Mahrez, who might get rotated out every now and then. That's why we have these budget players that play 90 minutes. Also, you want your entire squad, hopefully, to be playing 90 minutes. So fortunately, it looks like it's the say goodbye to John Lundstram. Moving on now to Harvey Barnes, 5.9 million, 1.6% ownership here. And this is actually a player I recommended quite a long time ago, but perhaps prematurely. And I'm going to prematurely advise him again. But now Barnes is on a roll. So 7 points, 12 points, and 7 points in the last 3 games. And they've got Wolves next, and then they've got Manchester City. So like I said, perhaps I'm a little bit premature again. But interestingly, I mentioned earlier, Wolves are the 2nd worst form team right now over the last 6 games. And even though the return of Bolly, who's 4.7 million, a really good option there at Wolves, and they got a clean sheet against Manchester United, Leicester is still chasing that 2nd place slot. And Barnes is a good cheap way into that Leicester City attack. And for those interested, I mentioned earlier, Crystal Palace are the worst form team in the Premier League right now. And last, but perhaps not least, it is Bruno Fernandes, 8 million and 2% owned. So this is a punt I made for myself. I brought him in for Mane, and it's an interesting one. His stats from Portugal are incredible, his goals and his assists. And if you watch the Wolves game, you can see that he does like to take shots. I wouldn't peg too much on that Wolves game, though, because when the likes of Matic and McTominay return, we could see him push further forward. But even his heat map did show that he was lingering just outside the box. Which isn't bad for your midfielder. He had the most goal attempts of any player on the pitch. He had the 2nd most final third touches of both teams as well. But I will point out that his goal attempts did come from outside the box at range. He's just getting started, so perhaps some of you will wait and see. But I felt excited by this transfer. It's an interesting option. It's a new option. It's shiny, brand new. And it's a game, so I wanted to have some fun. I wanted to have a punt. If this comes off, people would be praising it, saying, wow, it was gutsy, you went for a punt, really low ownership. And it didn't this time, but not too bad fixtures coming up for Manchester United. Chelsea, who concede goals, Watford and Everton, who also concede goals, are the next. So we could see a really good differential here. If not, expect to earn a little bit of value, team value, some money on this player, because if he does anything at all half decent, his price will shoot up, because that always happens with Manchester United players. People might argue against it, but they are still the most supported team in the world, and we see it all the time. If one of their players does anything decent, their prices always shoot right up. So, you know, if he isn't doing amazingly, but he does, you know, 1 assist or 1 goal, expect his price to go up, and then you can keep him on. But I've got no plans to do that yet. So that is the Game Week 26 preview and Game Week 25 review. Let me know in the comments below who are your differentials. What are you guys going to be doing? Because apparently every single game, even in the UK now, you can watch it on Sky or BT. I think you guys have got. Over here, it's 11 Sports. But yeah, we've got every game over here, so I'll be trying to catch pretty much all of them as well over the next couple of weeks. So who are your differentials over the next couple of game weeks? Are you sticking with Mane, or are you even thinking of playing your wild card? Let me know in the comments below. Thanks for watching, guys, and as always, have a good one.